Hi. Okay. So once upon a time, when I was a freshman, it sounds better than saying like last year because I don't know. Okay, fine. Last year, um, my sock. Okay. Um, um, we had a fire drill, and there is this little field that we go out to when we have a fire drill, and our school happens to have a groundhog problem. Yeah, we have groundhogs, and and so, just keep that in mind. And it had rained the night before. So, groundhogs and rain. Just keep that in mind. Okay. So, we walk out and they take our attendance and then they wait and then they're like, okay, you can come back in now. And we're all like, okay. So, we walk back inside. And I happen to be the last person to be walking into the building in like that little section of people. Other people were other places. And so I am walking, and so far so good. Walking, and bloop. That was a weird sound. And then I was just like whoosh, and that was also a weird sound. I fell into a fucking groundhog hole. So, because I have zero upper body strength, and it was a large hole, I am stuck. I am sufficiently, really kind of stuck in the groundhog hole. And it was muddy because it had rained the night before. So I'm in there like this, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, someone get me the fuck out of this muddy hole. And just so happens these two senior boys from the football team are walking by, and they happen to be, like the one that the girls are always talking about, and they have like the stereotypical high school house parties, and you just hear about all of their high school greatness all the time. And yeah, so I knew who they were just because I don't completely live under, well, no, I do live under a rock, but I knew who they were. And so I saw them coming, and I was kind of like, oh my god, of all the people to be walking along and seeing me in this hole. And so they kind of came up to me and they were like, oh my god, because I was in the ground. And I was like, and they were like, and I was like, not really, I didn't make that sound, but I probably made that face. And they were like, and I was like, I'm stuck. And they were like, yeah, you're in a hole. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, let's like lift her out. And so they're like, okay. So they kind of like pull me up, and I don't know, they used their football muscles, and suddenly I was on the ground. And so, like I'm kind of standing there awkwardly because like I don't know if I should say like, oh, thanks for fishing me out of that hole, or like, like brush it off like, oh, I was, I didn't know what to do because I was just so like still getting over the fact that I had actually fallen into a hole, and a muddy hole. And so I'm kind of standing there with like, oh, thanks for getting me out of the hole. I'm going to go back to class. And they're like, okay. And I don't know, the way jocks talk, they're like, okay. Or, I don't know. Anyways, so there's like one door. And so we walked through, and one of the guy's girlfriends was there with her friends because this was during a lunch period, fourth period lunch. And they had been like looking for him, or him and his friend, because they were like, where were you? And then they see me and they're like, oh my god, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, fine, I'm fine. And they kind of like she kind of like looked at me like, okay, now tell me why you're covered in mud. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine, I fell into a groundhog hole. And she was like, what? And I was like, I fell into a groundhog hole. And she's like, you did? How deep was it? And I was like, it was pretty deep. And then her boyfriend was like, yeah, I had to, like pull her out of the hole. And I was like, yeah, he pulled me out of the hole. And she's like, oh, okay. And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go now. And so then I walked away. And, I'm completely covered in mud because it had rained. And then it's only fourth period, so then for the rest of the day I walked around with mud all over me. And then people would be like, oh my god, what happened? And I'm an honest person. So not really, no, I am. I was like, I was outside for the fire drill, and I fell into a groundhog hole. And they were like, no, you didn't. And I'm like, yeah, I'm lying about falling into a hole. That's, I totally want to lie about that. So anyways, Claire questioned whether or not it was actually a groundhog hole because it was very deep. Okay, I will tell you why I know that it was a groundhog hole. Because a couple of days later, I walk out to one of my classes that's like kind of, you have to go outside to get to it. My Latin class. um, I love Latin. Um, and I'm walking and I see a groundhog. And, at first I'm like, oh, it's so cute. It's so waddly and, groundhoggy. And, it's just like waddling along. And then it stops and it looks at me and I'm like, it's looking at me. And I'm like, and I just kind of look at it and it's like being perfectly still. And then all of a sudden it just darts down into a fucking hole. And it was the hole that I fell into. And I was like, no, you did this to me. And it seemed kind of indifferent to my pain, but I think it did it on purpose. Yeah, so that's the story of how I fell into a groundhog hole and was fished out by two popular senior boys from the football team, and then confronted by their, had, an experience with one of their girlfriends, and then saw the malicious groundhog that made that hole. It was more, well, may, maybe it was one of those you had to be there things, but it was really embarrassing at the time. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go now. Bye. Oh my god, why did I do that? Oh. I'm just really happy that it's Friday and I'm really tired, and the mixture of the two makes me wake weird sounds such as I did it again. Okay, I'm gonna go. I'm really wired and I need to blog out my energy. BRB blogging for Evs on a Friday night. Okay, goodbye. I clicked, but the mouse was not on the stop button, so I was awkwardly not being... Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go. Okay, bye. I did it again. Okay, bye. For real this time.